some of the concerns for the 49ers here down the stretch. And I guess there's only one way to start that conversation, right?
Hightower!
So let's evaluate where this is, because this has become a movement.
Okay. I think you have to make a change. They have an assistant special teams coach. I've never heard of him. No one really has. He's a 34-year-old up-and-coming coach who was a couple years ago an analyst at Alabama. So there is no guarantee that he's like equipped to take over the job. But I saw someone in the comments on the YouTube a lot earlier when we first got on mention something, and then I think their comment was, I don't know how we blame coaches for players fumbling. That's the type of mindset people not in football have. That is a complete wrong mindset. Every single player on the team is on there because the coach okays it. Now, obviously, Hasty is like third or fourth. You know, they've had injuries. But this jumped the shark from, I don't blame Hightower anymore. It's like when really shitty players stay on the field. It's no longer like a couple games, whatever. A season, 2 seasons, you continue to start and you suck. It's then on the coach. It is now on Kyle Shanahan allowing this to happen. Their special teams coach fumbled the first kickoff of the game. I don't know how Kyle. Here's the thing, also, guy. I'm gonna guess Hightower. He's been the assistant coach, the special teams coach all 5 years. That means he's got a contract extension, because when he got hired, he did not have a 5-year deal. There's a chance he makes $1 million. And he is in a business where you get paid a shitload of money to produce. You either produce or you don't. It's why Jason Garrett got fired. It's why coordinators get fired midseason in college football, in the pros. Because if your unit is not getting it done. Now, Kyle's the boss of the entire organization, and he's friends with this guy. But his unit, time in and time again, continues to royally fuck up. It's one thing. I wouldn't hold it against them if it's like, like their punt return. Like Brandon Ayuk never has any green grass. Maybe it's just whatever. Brandon, I don't hold that against him really, because a lot
Most
of teams
punt return is punt return. Like good punt return is 8 yards, so that's to me not.
Even the occasional kick return, which the Niners gave up one easily to the 40 in this game. They got lucky. Their defense got a sack like 2 plays later to push them back 15 yards. But it's like, I even give you the occasional, let them out. Instead of tackling them at the 22, they make it to the 40. The turnovers guy and the scoring plays are unlike anything I've ever seen. It is easily one of the worst. We've been doing this now together for 7-8 years. I've been watching pro football for 11 plus years. It's easily one of the worst individual units on a week-in, week-out basis, coordinated, like offense, defense, special teams, we've ever seen. It is terrible. I mean, kickoff return, punt touchdown, fumbled punt. It's just something after another. It's like, well, Hasty fumbled it. Well, one, he put Hasty out there, and 2, Kyle keeps allowing him to do fucking all this stuff. Like, what is going on? It is, you played the Falcons today, whatever. They are not going to be able. You said that you think they could beat the Packers. No chance they could beat the Packers if their special team's going to do this type of shit. They will lose in the playoffs if they have a turnover or give up a touchdown on special teams. 100%. I would bet $10,000 right now that if you told me, John, in the first round of the playoffs, the Niners either create or turn the ball over on the special teams or give up a touchdown, I would say loss. Because the margins are just too slim in those type games. And I don't see. I would be expecting disaster to strike on Hightower's watch. And I don't root. Luckily in the NFL, he'd still get paid. He's not Urban Meyer. He's not getting fired. When you get fired for being bad at your job in the NFL, you're not fired for cause. You still get paid. It's not even head scratch. It's an embarrassment. And now, like, I'm starting to blame Kyle for allowing this to happen. He's the head coach.
Yeah, I don't expect him to do anything about it. There have been a couple situations this year that Josh Norman being one where I thought cutting the player was the action he would take. Maybe you step in and have somebody else handle kickoff returns, but he certainly has the power to do that if he wants. I thought the fake punt touchdown against Seattle was egregious. I thought the fumble coming out of halftime against Seattle was egregious, given that your starting returner had been hurt in that game. That was the game that Trent Cannon got hurt in. So you knew you had a replacement coming out, Travis Benjamin, in the second half. And the number one communication coaching point should have been, Travis, you're going to put both arms on the ball. And if you have anyone get close to you, I know you've returned before, but the number one point here is going to be, do not fumble the football. Do not fumble the football. But by the same token, I don't know what the second time it happened too. I thought it was very good special teams coaching today by Atlanta. The short kick, hasty looking into the sun, didn't know what to do with it. Now, my counter would be, okay, what would you do if you were them? You have to move your guy up, maybe expect it. I don't know. Maybe that was on tape. Maybe it wasn't. But that to me was that moment was more about getting out coached than the fumble by Hasty on the first return.
That's what I was going to say, Guy, and that's what I skipped over when I was just reading how you got to demote him. He has clearly become the mark. He's become like players, right? It's no different than, was it you talking or someone talking why you could never – oh, yeah, you and I talked about this within the last week or two about, F1, they have the racer and the team, part of it, they broadcast it, why you could never do that in football, having the headset live or it'd just be impossible. It is clear, though, and this because it happens to individual players, right? When a guy goes down with an injury and a rookie corner comes in, or just Ambry Thomas is in the game, you're saying, go after 20, go after 20. Hightower is now the mark for oppositions. Like that, okay, you could convince me, and it's freak fumble. Whatever. I disagree because you put that guy who's got a fumbling problem fucking back there.
But you have a roster. This is your roster. So
then,
you only
then
so
put someone else up. You got to make a decision.
They've had
That's
3 returners. They've got returners all over the place.
But here's what you cannot argue. That opposing coaches, week after week, Seattle, Minnesota, and specifically this week, because it's unique the way that they popped it up, view Richard Hightower as a fucking bullseye on his back, and we're going to expose your ass, and we're going to take advantage of it. And that, to me, now listen, I don't see
maybe. I mean, teams try stuff on special teams all the time against.
But the Niners group keeps not handling it well.
Right. But I'm saying like people do it. Like people run fake punts. People do the short pooch kick.
We see a lot of fake punts fail.
Yeah. I'm just saying that he got out.
Like the Niners guys have no clue what's going on. Like players freak when just. Like the pooch, it's not even called a pooch or whatever, the short kind of high kick that like the 15. You can, if you just watch football like on a normal October day, Saturday and Sunday, sometimes I guess in college guys, they just don't have the leg, but college teams do it as well.
Yeah.
And you can tell like a well-coached team knows exactly what to do. You either Peter it, you do whatever, right? I guess with a kickoff, you have to, you can't just let it sit there because they could recover it. But the guys are coached up what to do. The Niners, like everyone's looking at each other. Guy, it's fucking December 19th. We're week 14. They got no goddamn clue. None. So it's like, I am no longer going to keep Hightower. They're not, it's on Kyle. Kyle has to, like, I can't even imagine how mad Kyle was. But what's the point in getting mad? Your guy's getting worked. He's getting throttled every week. And it to me would be pretty killer if they lose a playoff game. You agree it'd be hard to stomach, though it wouldn't be shocking because it's happened all season if they lose a playoff game by 5 points or something and they give up a special teams touchdown in that game.
Absolutely. And I hold my breath every time there's a kickoff return. And the good coaches know. I mean, if you talk to any coach who has any clue, who cares about special teams, they always talk about the win percentage that changes when you get a special team score. They all talk about it. So, I think when I look at a good team, usually you have 1 or 2 guys that are kick returners coming into a game. Like, if there's a kickoff return, it's going to be 1 or 2 guys. They've had 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 different guys. Actually, Kittle, but that doesn't count. They've had 5 different guys like back on kick return this year, which is too many. But the irony is the number 1 guy, who I'd say is Trent Cannon, has been dicey. But I also think there are different. If I was going to play devil's advocate here, I'd say, first of all, I agree wholeheartedly. A special teams mistake in an evenly matched game swings the entire result of the game in the other team's favor. Everything. But I think there have been other.
It's almost the equivalent of like in a playoff baseball game, an error where you airmail a first baseman and it leads to a run, you lose 2-1 or something.
Yeah, right? Or just if you told me, it's the same as if you told me ahead of time there's going to be a pick 6 in this game. I'd be like, well, that's. Yeah. But I also think there have been times this year with the Niners offense early in the year where it felt like the sky was falling and Kyle Shanahan didn't do anything but just keep doing what he normally does. And it corrected itself.
This has been a long season, though.
Yeah, the difference is that on offense, they have real playmakers. And their special teams guys clearly are not in terms of returners specifically. And we're not just talking about returners. We're talking about getting out coached. They just don't have erasers on special teams to make up for some of this stuff. But to me, their primary issue is I don't care. I mean, the fumbles are just, it's crazy.
Would they be better off, I guess, as a kickoff returner, just fair catching it, and punt returner?
If they had the college rule where you can fair catch it on a kickoff and take the ball to the 25, that'd be great.
Yeah, they would have to start implementing that.
I love that.
I think this guy, clearly he's not communicating. He's just doing a poor job coaching because no one ever has any clue what's going on. It's what it feels like, ever. And just these pretty basic, like the NFL. This is the National Football League. You're not going to class. You're spending all time, and like that kick. Clearly, Hasty had no clue, but the other guys were kind of unsure. Like the other two guys, like it's just constant confusion. And when you're confusion, what does any coach tell you? From Dilfer, his high school coaching guys, to college, to the pros, like if you're thinking, like part of being coached up is like I just know what to do. Like when you just watch the Patriots,
that felt to
fuck
me
up, but they just know what to do, and you just make full speed decisions. I can live with a full speed mistake. The Niners make a lot of decisions where they're like on special teams.
John. Yeah, I mean, JaMychal Hasty has returned 7 kicks in his career.
And he can't be back there. Like that. That's where I go back to Kyle Shanahan.
I think it's I totally. But they're running out of guys. Other guys getting hurt. Trenton Cannon's hurt. Even he's made a mistake, right? And it was like, get rid of Trenton Cannon. He's their guy, actually, as it turned out. Remember, he made a couple. I don't know what game was that where he had the fumble.
Seattle, where he fumbled the punt, and
then he had the drop. Was it the muff and the pickup? And then fumble again or whatever it was. But
in fairness, he almost died like last week, so I'd give him the benefit of the doubt.
Yeah, he had long since kind of bounced back. But my point is that that was a moment where Kyle could have forced a change and didn't. And I think they've had some moments over the course of this year that have felt like moments to panic. Not that making a change, not that fixing special teams would be panicking, but he hasn't done it. And I think clearly the mark on that special teams play was Hasty. They knew he didn't know what to do, and he acted like he didn't know what to do.
And that's
part of it was
that's a coaching problem.
I agree to a point. But again, you got a guy out there who's got 7 returns in his career. I don't know. There's only so much you can do for him.
I was in the car this morning, and God, I feel for John Lund. They go on the air for Niners pregame for radio at fucking like 7 a.m. I'm like, God, this day sucks. Oh, Johnny, I hope they're paying you a lot for this because holy fuck. But, he's on, it must have been 8 o'clock in the morning, and they were talking about Cordell Patterson. And I had forgotten this, but, the Niners wanted him this offseason. Like, they made a legit play for him. And clearly they would die for a guy like that, right? That you could just put a kickoff returns, punt returns, and then also use on offense. But he would be for sure your kickoff and punt returner. That if he fucks up, I'll tip my hat, whatever. I will not yell at anybody. But they need to find a way to get that guy, because that guy, if you are going to keep Hightower, because I do not believe Hightower's a lock to get fired. Kyle doesn't want to fire him. He's not going to fire him. But you better believe if I'm Jed, like I want him gone. I'm paying him $1 million. He's not. It's just a black and white business, and the guy is failing. So it's like I'm paying this guy $1 million. He's not. He's failing. Like that's what Jason Garrett got fired, because he failed. Like it's part of the job. You either get the job done or you don't as a coordinator. And this guy, he just couldn't be any worse. And it might be the greatest guy. There are a lot of great coaches who aren't that good at coaches. It's a hard job. There's a small percentage of them that are actually good, and a large percentage of guys in the NFL probably aren't even that good. Now, it pays, as John Madden said, you go from gym teacher to genius. Well, in 2021, you don't even need to be a genius. You go from gym teacher to making $600K, $700K. If special teams coach, $950K. They're living like Wall Street brokers right now. But in Wall Street, if you're not making sales or generating money, you get fired. If no one listens to us, we would go out of business. It just would be crazy if this guy survives, and it's a long way away, but it's like, we've all watched football long enough. It doesn't get any worse. It just does not get any worse than what we're watching. And it's every element now. It's not knowing what to do. It's punt returns. It's missed field goals. It's like everything. Every possible thing. So it's like, well, we don't give him any. So if he doesn't get any credit for Robbie Gold or Wisnowski, then all he would be coaching then would be like the blocking schemes and stuff, right? Which clearly he doesn't know what's going on. It's crazy. And I lived it.
Were they bad on special teams last year?
Just because you live you work in the NFL as a coordinator or position coach does not mean you know what you're doing. And the
Were they
game
bad on
reflects
special
your
teams
ability.
last year?
I mean, they were 6-win teams, so they were bad at a lot of places.
Yeah, I don't. I mean, it's not like he's a
It's one-
first-year special teams coach who's never.
No,
been
he's
a
going
special
on his
teams
5th year.
coach before. Yeah.
Their special teams have not been like they've just blended in, I would say.
Right.
I don't remember them like kickoff returns or blocking punts or like the Colts, for example. One thing Burkhardt said last night, the guy blocked a second punt for a touchdown. He's like, that can't happen many seasons where a guy blocked 2 punts for touchdowns in a season, the guy in the Colts. You just watch the Colts, Bubba Ventrone, their unit does shit. You know? You block a punt for a touchdown, it feels like you can allow multiple touchdowns. It wipes it off. But the Niners never cross anything off. There's no balance on the ledger. It's just like negative, 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 neutral, neutral, negative, negative, couple neutrals, negative, missed field goal, negative, neutral, neutral. There's never like, did you see that double pass they ran on the punt for 50 yards? Like they don't even have the capability. And maybe Kyle doesn't allow him to do it because he doesn't trust him, and that's a problem in itself.
See, that I would disagree with that. Like, Kyle running offense is so much better than the Niners special teams running trick plays.
No, I'm saying if Kyle doesn't allow Hightower to do that, it's a problem in itself. If Hightower comes to him with an idea and Kyle doesn't trust him.
Oh.
Because part of it is like,
Gotcha.
if he's like, well, listen, I'm not going to micromanage. I hired this guy. Well, if he tells you he has a sweet punt, you better believe him.
I have a feeling, I've never thought of that, but I have a feeling that Kyle Shanahan views any special teams trick play as the worst play in his offensive playbook.
Yeah, I'm not against you on that, but you have to admit that over the years,
They run
great teams, Patriots, the Boise State teams, LSU, Bama,
Absolutely.
like, everyone runs a
Do they
trick
run a
special teams play.
fake? Was there a fake with use check this year? No, that was not a fake punt. The use check direct snap play.
Yeah, it was, he went under the center and then he snapped it and went, and it was.
Austin says Golden Tate has posters of Ambry Thomas up in his room this week while we're talking about weaknesses. Not a cornerback guy here. I mean, I think going back in my history of doing like a call-in shows, I think cornerbacks are probably at the top of the list of just people that just take heat from the fan base. Play calling is number one.
It's bullpen and corners. It's just,
and play calling, offensive coordinator.
Yeah.
And for the 49ers in 2021, special teams coach. But just, I'm not like Dion here, but Ambry Thomas in position a lot, John. He's in position a lot. It's the breaking up of the pass from being in position that proved to be problematic for him against the Falcons. If Kyle Pitts had caught that ball before halftime, that would have been pretty devastating. Not to the game, but just to the psyche.
Do you know what's funny? Is when they showed the first replay, I'm like, I think Ambry Thomas picked this ball off. His knee hit before he went out of bounds. And then they showed the second replay. It's like Kyle Pitts ripped it out of his hands. Is that oh my God. I do think the bar is so low. I give him some credit for just being there. We have seen there was a play today by Josh Norman nowhere near the wide receiver. The Niners, their corners have not been near wide receivers. So you just being in place, to me, is a step in the right direction. But he even shot his arms up at the right time a couple times. His arms perfectly at the right time. Boom. And the ball didn't budge out of the guy's hand. It happened twice. And on top of that, the third was the Pitts play where he literally ripped it out of the guy's hands. This guy's where's he from? Michigan? Like, this is a big-time Division I player.
I do Harbaugh's strength and conditioning program. Sometimes I wonder about watching him. But this is a weakness of theirs. It just is. And it's not just him. Like, he's on the field. We've seen other guys who are not him be in compromising positions all year long. This is one of their weaknesses. This is a problem for them.
Didn't you feel like today they didn't even really fuck around with Norman that much? They just went relentlessly after 20?
Yes. And now we'll see. A.J. Brown right now is eligible to come off IR with a chest. Julio Jones hurt his hamstring again on Sunday in a loss to the Pittsburgh Steelers. Golden Tate, sneaky, has been on the practice squad for the Titans, but has not appeared in the game. I would defy you to name Titans receivers right now. But, Julio being potentially likely out. I don't want to say likely. I don't know as we record this.
Well, he left the game and then he was ruled out, which is never a good sign.
That's true, from the game, and he'd only been back 2 games from the hamstring. And I don't know. We'll keep an eye on what A.J. Brown's situation is. Maybe the Niners catch some breaks this week with the Titans' lackluster offense.
Well, their running backs aren't great either with the big fella with the broken foot. Their offense looks pretty putrid when you watch them.
Their most dynamic offensive player is probably Tannehill at this point.
Who is not a
very receivers
good player.
can't play. No, but he's a little athletic.
Yeah, he can.
No, I agree. I've never been pro Tannehill, but they did their meeting on the Steelers logo today and then got beat. They have scored their last 4 games, 13 points.
They did a pregame meeting on the Steelers logo?
They did the Raiders Chiefs thing. Yeah.
Whose fucking idea was that? I mean, what are these
Bring it
people
up,
doing?
fellas. Bring it up. What are you doing? Their last 4 games were 13 points, 13 points, 20 points, 13 points. So they're averaging 14.75 points in their last 4 games.
Can I name you just a couple guys that caught balls today and play who he played for?
Please, but yeah, okay.
Nick Westbrook Ikini caught 4. He was the leading pass catcher, 4 for 32. You ever heard of him?
Westbrook Ikini. Never heard of him, John. I'm
Chester
not
Rogers. Chester Rogers, 4 for 30. Heard of Chester Rogers?
Feel like I might have heard of Chester Rogers.
I'm pretty sure he's a former Steelers.
Can't guarantee it. Nick Westbrook Ikini from Indiana. Okay.
Chester Rogers from he plays for the Steelers. That's all I know.
I'm gonna go Michigan State, just because a lot of receivers have played at Michigan State.
I could go Rutgers as like an undrafted free agent or something.
We're gonna go with Grambling State is the answer on that one.
Little HBCU.
Yep.
Dante Foreman is a running back. Okay. Jeremy McNichols, I also think they're running back. And then they have a guy named Anthony Fursker.
Oh, yeah.
Caught 2 balls.
Legit tight end. He's been on their team.
Dante Hilliard. You're playing. They are really compromised with their skill. I mean, you're talking about a team that's big 3 when fully healthy is Derrick Henry, Julio Jones, and A.J. Brown. You agree if those 3 guys were healthy, this game would be a mother? How would you? The Niners, 2 guys full go, if they were 100% healthy, would have no chance on God's green earth to cover either one of those wide receivers, right?
I think I'd run Ambry Thomas back out there this week, John.
I would too. The Niners get lucky that they're injured. In fairness, they've had a lot of these situations on the flip side for them playing these games, right? Where they've got into games with rosters that'll look like this. So you got to take advantage of it. But this is, as of Sunday night recording this, could this be like a pick'em? Are we sure the Niners are even going to be the underdog in this game?
We're not. Niners get a lot of just general major mainstream media and public love and non-mainstream media love. So they might be favored by Thursday.
Let's guess by kickoff. I'm going to go Niners -2.
Have you thought about is A.J. Brown playing in that scenario?
Either way, here's my thought. The game opens like Titans +2, and there is just, Titans -2, so the Niners are getting some points. And it's one of those in like a 48-hour swing where people just fucking hammer the points.
I bet they open at like -1.
And it closes.
Yeah, maybe it closes at like 2.5 or 3. Yeah.
I could see a huge swing. If A.J. Brown by like Tuesday is like, hey, we're going to wait another week. Because they're not, the one thing the Titans are pretty lucky is sweeping the Colts. They're still multiple games ahead. Like they're 9-5. So even if they were to lose this game, and then the Titans finish with the Dolphins and the Texans. The Dolphins, is that a lock win? That's not an easy game, but it'd be coming off a long week.
But again, the Titans aren't scoring points. They're averaging under 15 points per game in the last 4 weeks.
So
they're
you think
not
it's possible
scoring points.
Could the Colts catch them?
I'm not looking at the standings right now. What do you?
Well, let's say that the Titans are 9-5. So if they win one more game, they'd be their final record would be 10-7. But they swept the Colts, so the Colts would have to go 2-1 to tie them. Now, I don't know if the tiebreaker is just straight us versus you, right? Is that the way it works, even in division? I think it's your divisional record.
In the division, yeah.
Just because, let's say they both finish 10-7, but the Titans are like, well, we swept the Colts. I don't think that matters. because we've seen that before. I think if we went 5-1 in the division and you went 4-2, we would get it over you. Obviously, the Colts wouldn't be able to go 5-1 because they've lost. You know what I'm saying? Like,
Yeah.
I don't think just those 2 games stand separate from the overall 6-game divisional record.
Right.
So right now the Colts are 3-2 in the division, and the Titans are 4-1, and they have their last game against the Texans. I think the Titans are they just got to win one more game, and they're basically a shoe-in because the Colts.
Yeah. Well, it's crazy.
It's crazy that it's even this close.
They may not.
The Colts play the Cardinals, the Raiders, and the Jags.
But it's felt like the Titans haven't been themselves for over a month, and yet they're still in the driver's seat. It's kind of
well.
wild
They did.
to me.
Didn't they start like 8-1? I mean, they had an incredible start this season.
Yeah, and the Colts started behind the 8 ball,
and they beat them twice. So
and
they
beat them
really
twice.
thrown
Wow.
back.
So they got really. Imagine if their schedule had been backloaded with the Colts Titans playing twice in the last month,
or even just one of the games was these last 3 games. What if you told me right now the Colts were hosting the Titans? Remember that game they lost in overtime where Wentz threw that bad pick, but that game was going on this up, in 2 weeks. What would you think? The Colts 5-6 point favorite?
Yeah, maybe more. I mean, if they were at home, maybe
Colts just housed the fucking Patriots.
The Colts are playing really well, and the Titans are playing like ass. I can't emphasize that enough. Now it's Thursday night. Weird things happen. Road trip Thursday. It's
long
I'm not
trip,
saying-
long
nothing easy.
long flight.
Nothing easy about it. But the other concern being when's Elijah Mitchell come back in a crazy way? And you've heard people say this for years, right? Players would rather have a concussion than a knee injury because you can come back from that concussion in all likelihood in a couple of weeks. But it's not his concussion that's keeping him out right now. It's soreness in his knee. Jeff Wilson is just like, it's weird. He's like always ready. He's not good enough to be among like the top 3 guys, but he's just over there, ready if you need him, and just always looks the same when you play him. So maybe that settles things down a little bit.
He is, I think going into the season before he sat down in the locker room and tore his MCL, he is a fantastic 3. Right? I think ideally they wanted Mostert to be their 1. They wanted one of the rookies to let the cream rise, and then Jeff Wilson to be their 3rd. Has experience, knows what to do. And it just shows you with the Kyle Shanahan running backs, like Jeff Wilson did not miss this game. I do think it's pretty concerning, guy. Shattered finger, concussion, and the reason is because of his knee soreness. Now, you could be like Al-Shaair, Elijah Mitchell. If this was a playoff game, they could have gone, and maybe that was their thinking. They're playing the Falcons. I would say, though, conventional wisdom, that is not the way NFL teams operate. Like, if you can play, you can play. And if you can't, you can't. Like, this is not baseball or basketball.
Bosa had a little scare, was good. They're dominating the game. He still comes back and plays in the game, right?
It feels like Kyle.
Like, you easily could have said, like, you know what, Bosa, let's just keep him off the field. We'll get him to Tennessee healthy. That's not how – they didn't play the game that way. They don't play – I'm with you. I think you would have played him too.
But I'm not even putting that on Kyle. Like, I think most NFL coach, like, if you're dressed and you're good to go and the trainer's like, he's fine, and what do you think the guy – this is where I think fans want to see their guys play. I think a lot of the media sometimes freaks out. You do understand these players enjoy playing football. Like, the moment the trainer's like, Nick, you're good. Nick's like, good, I'm going back in. Like, you think Nick wants to work all week to like, no, I'll just take the second half off? No, if you're Nick Bosa, you like lining up against guys who aren't as good as you and kicking the shit out of them and racking up sacks.